Our ancestors had access to incredible technology. In fact, their technology was so amazing that we cannot adequately explain how they managed to invent it. Many scientists don't like to talk about it, but you can find evidence of this high technology everywhere if you know where to look. While these discoveries often challenge traditional timelines, modern researchers are increasingly using advanced forensics to decode these ancient mysteries. Fortunately, we know, and we will share it with you in this video. Let's begin. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. The Iron Pillar of Delhi was created more than 500 years ago. Looking at it, we would never guess its age because there isn't a single trace of rust on it. This isn't because it is regularly cleaned and polished. It is because it is physically impossible for the column to rust. The iron column, sometimes called the Ashoka Pillar, stands 6.7 meters tall. Every centimeter of these 6.7 meters is coated in a rust-resistant substance called miso-white. This prevents the iron surface from being exposed to oxygen. Without this contact, rust cannot form. The Indian Institute of Technology has found that the protective layer was made because the iron used by ancient blacksmiths had a lot of phosphorus, which helped create the miso-white coating. It is difficult to imagine that the people who manufactured the pillar at that time had knowledge of how to prevent oxidation, leading most scientists to believe it was likely an accident. Their best guess is that the miso-white formed under exceptional and unique conditions when the hot iron mixed with lime slag and moist air while cooling. Once it became clear that their column would never rust, the ancient inhabitants of Delhi considered it a miracle. The idea that it was a happy accident is reinforced by the fact that no other rust-proof Indian object has ever been found. The Nimrud Lens. Some historians claim that the Nimrud Lens is the world's first telescope. Others say it was never designed for such a function, and that its magnifying properties were used to magnify the sun's rays to start fires rather than to observe distant objects or stars. Who is right and who is wrong? Well, the debate has lasted for more than a century and doesn't seem likely to end soon. The artifact, also known as the layered lens, was discovered in the ruins of an Assyrian palace in Iraq in 1850. It began its life as a simple piece of rock crystal, but was cut, shaped, and polished into its current form. The Nimrud lens is capable of magnifying an object by a factor of 3, which may not seem like much, but is the same magnification factor as the telescope invented in the Netherlands in 1608. However, many contemporary archaeologists argue the lens was likely used as a magnifying glass for fine engraving or as a decorative inlay rather than for astronomical observation. The Nimrud lens was already about 2,600 years old when that Dutch telescope was invented. So it is no exaggeration to say that if the lens was truly intended to be a telescope, it was thousands of years ahead of its time. The Antikythera Mechanism and the bronze disc. The Antikythera Mechanism is one of the best-known archaeological remains in the world. The 2,100-year-old object, recovered from a Roman shipwreck, is considered so sophisticated for calculating astronomical changes that it should be regarded as the ancestor of the modern computer. Archaeologists returned to the same shipwreck in October 2017 and found another valuable artifact, a bronze disc of approximately the same shape and size as the Antikythera Mechanism, but of an entirely different design. Initially, they hoped the disc might be a part of the mechanism, but when they X-rayed it, they discovered that beneath the hardened layer of sediment covering the artifact is a detailed representation of a bull. This, along with the 4 perforations on the edges of the disc, suggests it was a decorative object that was once fixed to a wall. It was a fascinating find, but not the groundbreaking one that would explain the Antikythera Mechanism. Despite this, CT scans of the main mechanism continue to reveal complex gear systems that suggest a lost Greek tradition of high-precision engineering. Without that breakthrough, we still do not know why no other artifact similar to the Antikythera Mechanism has been found. The Lycurgus Cup and Nanotechnology. The Lycurgus Cup is an ancient Roman artifact that perfectly illustrates the capabilities of nanotechnology. This is a field of science that we are only just beginning to explore today. Yet here is the work of an ancient Roman craftsman who knew at least a little about the subject 1600 years ago. The cup changes color depending on the angle from which you look at it. From one side it is red, but if you move around it, you will see it turn green. This impressive optical illusion is due to microscopic particles of silver and gold added to the glass mixture. Each particle has a diameter of barely 50 nanometers, invisible to the naked eye. To give you an idea of the scale, these particles are 1,000 times smaller than a grain of salt. Modern electron microscopy has shown that the specific ratio of these precious metals suggests the Romans had mastered a deliberate chemical process to achieve this dichroic effect. The gold and silver were not mixed accidentally, so whoever made the Lycurgus Cup knew what they were doing, and we don't know how. It seems they kept their secrets close to their hearts, as nothing else like this artifact has been found in former Roman territory. It is an absolutely unique object. The incense clock. The most popular method for measuring time in China and India before the invention of the modern clock was the incense clock. There is much disagreement among experts regarding the invention of the incense clock and when it originated. It is known to have been popular in China during the Song dynasty in the 10th century and spread from China to Korea and Japan. But the history of the device dates back to the 8th century in India. Some sources indicate that the Indians actually got the idea from Chinese inventors who created the first incense clock in the 6th century, but the reliability of these sources is the source of the debate. Historians believe these clocks were particularly vital in Buddhist temples, where precise timekeeping was essential for synchronized meditation and rituals. In simple terms, each incense clock contains either an incense stick or incense powder that has been carefully manufactured to burn at a very specific rate. Thus, it is possible to determine what time it is or how much time has passed by, checking how much stick or powder inside the clock has burned. More advanced models contained gongs and bells that would sound automatically to indicate the passage of an hour or a day. The Vajra, mythological weapon. Although the religions of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism are different from one another, they share some key beliefs. One of them is that the Vajra is the chosen weapon of the gods. You will locate mentions of the Vajra dating back to the Rig Veda, the first part of the 4 known Vedas. From an etymological perspective, there are 2 ways to understand the word Vajra, both coming from Sanskrit. The first is as thunderbolt, and the second as diamond. In both cases, it is believed the intention of the word is to represent the weapon as an irresistible force. According to mythology, Indra was directly informed by Vishnu that a weapon made from the bones of the Hindu sage Datichi would be capable of destroying the serpent demon known as Vritra. The weapon in question was created by the divine artist Vastar and proved to be effective. While no physical weaponized versions of the Vajra have been found in the archaeological record, its presence in ancient texts suggests it was a powerful symbol of indestructible spiritual authority. Indian traditions consider the Vajra the most powerful weapon in the universe. It is a bold claim for a weapon that is essentially a club with a ribbed head, but there is no shortage of people who believe it. The Colmar arithmometer. Okay, we admit that our next technology isn't exactly ancient, but it is an important step in the evolution of mathematics. It is called the arithmometer, and it is the world's first digital mechanical calculator. They were small and durable enough to be used in office environments and were the most reliable means for performing calculations until the pocket calculator was invented. The device, which was patented in France by Thomas de Colmar in 1820, was capable of performing addition, subtraction, division, and long multiplication. The device's most popular years were between 1851 and 1915, but its popularity was such that they continued to be manufactured until the 1970s. Its mass production marked the beginning of the professional calculating machine industry. The main advantage of the device from the employer's point of view was that it was easy to use, so a unit could be given to an employee without the need for special training. Over time, and with the need to calculate larger numbers with more decimals, larger versions were created. The largest known version was built in 1893 and had 20 digits. People of the time probably couldn't imagine a reason why anyone would need to calculate larger numbers. The globe of Metallica. You are probably familiar with the basic design of a sundial, but it is very unlikely that you have seen a sundial that looks like the globe of Metallica. As the name suggests, this is an ancient Roman-style sundial carved into the side of a solid marble sphere. It has been considered an archaeological mystery since its discovery during the reconstruction of the Palazzo Pretorio in Italy in 1985. The globe has a diameter of almost exactly 31.5 centimeters. It is made of marble quarried somewhere near Ephesus in Turkey. Scientists believe it was carved in the 1st or 2nd century. Mathematical analysis of the sphere's markings suggests it was designed specifically for the latitude of the region where it was found. Unfortunately, the original inscriptions have been damaged, and only a few words and letters of ancient Greek remain visible on the device's surface. This makes it impossible to confirm a long-standing theory that, in addition to functioning as a sundial, the globe of Metallica may also have been used for astronomical calculations, much like an armillary sphere. It is likely that the 3 holes on the surface of the sphere once contained metal inserts to indicate the time of day, thus allowing observers to know the hour. How did our ancestors manage to drill precise holes in solid rock? Answer: by using devices such as the bow drill. A standard bow drill does not look like a powerful tool. It is a simple hand tool composed of a single-axis spindle that moves by pushing a bow back and forth. The bow is attached to a piece of taut string, which in turn is wrapped around the spindle. The invention is sometimes referred to as the Egyptian bow drill due to the belief that it is an ancient Egyptian invention, but solid evidence to support this theory is scarce. Instead, it is more likely that bow drills were invented in Mehrgarh, Pakistan, between 6,000 and 7,000 years ago. Archaeological finds show that this tool was used as early as the 7th millennium BC for both jewelry making and dentistry. Examples of bow drills made with green jasper bits have been found there. However, ancient bow drills have also been found in lands formerly occupied by the Indus Valley Civilization, making it difficult to say whether the concept began in one region before moving to another, or if the invention is an example of parallel evolution. The Kleroterion and Greek democracy. The first recorded democracy in the history of the world was that of ancient Greece. The Greeks went to great lengths to ensure their democracy was fair. That is why devices like the Kleroterion were invented. The apparatus was used to ensure that favoritism could not infiltrate processes such as the creation of councils, the selection of juries, and other important social and political functions in Athens. This system ensured that any citizen, regardless of status, had an equal chance to participate in the city's governance. In its simplest form, a Kleroterion is nothing more than a stone slab engraved with hundreds of slots and attached to a tube. Tokens would be placed in the slots and then released randomly into the tube. However, there is a problem. The mechanism that released the tokens has not survived in any of the Kleroterions that have reached the present day, so we are not sure exactly how the process worked. We suspect it was something like a long pin used to block the open end and separate one falling token from another, but we cannot prove it. The records suggest that the first Kleroterion was invented in 403 BC, after citizens expressed their dissatisfaction with the first-come, first-served method for forming councils in Athens. The flying ship of Francesco Lana de Terzi. We suspect most people have never heard of Francesco Lana de Terzi, which is a pity. He was a 17th century Italian inventor, mathematician, and naturalist. And in 1670, he designed an amazing vehicle he called the flying ship. The design has quite a few similarities to a conventional ship. For example, there is a central mast attached to a sail and a steering system designed to function exactly like that of a sailboat. However, on the 4 masts, copper spheres made of very thin sheets and subjected to vacuum conditions would be fixed, which would make them lighter than the surrounding air in the inventor's mind. This would make them capable of carrying the craft and up to 6 passengers through the sky. De Terzey dreamed of building a prototype to test his theory. But unfortunately for him, no one in his time was capable of manufacturing copper sheets that thin. Though the physics of buoyancy was theoretically correct, the design was impossible to build because atmospheric pressure would have crushed the thin copper spheres. Later in his life, he hoped a flying machine would never be built, as he feared they would be used to bomb cities from above. He was right. The Lawson Dropper, Vaginal Washer. We would like to end with an invention that proves that not all innovative ideas are necessarily excellent. It is the Lawson Vaginal Washer, and unfortunately, it is exactly what it sounds like. If you are a fan of Doctor Who and look at this ridiculous device thinking it looks exactly like a Dalek gun, you are not the first person to make that association. Lawson, whose first name has been lost to time, had this idea in 1900. We would like to think we had learned enough about female hygiene at that time to realize it was not a good idea, but apparently not. The idea behind the apparatus is as simple as it is misguided. It is inserted into the vagina and then sends a jet of water before spinning like a brush, theoretically cleaning the inside of the organ. Medical history now views such devices as dangerous, as they disrupted the natural biological balance of the body. At the time, it ignored the fact that the organ in question is self-cleaning by design. It also ignores medical advice indicating that inserting something of that size that rotates and ejects water in the form of a powerful jet is a pretty terrible idea. It is no surprise that it was invented by a man.